Once I have written a play, I arrange to meet with Vivienne so we can transcreate the work into English. We begin by making a rough translation. To do this, we use online dictionaries, translation app, a thesaurus, and any other translation tool that's available. But the most important method is to use conversations.
Although I'm trying to learn Arabic, I'm not able to translate Afeif's work. However, Transcreation is a more immediate way of helping recent arrivals to a country realise their creative work in the language of that country. We covered the many reasons and benefits of this in the first video. Not being able to translate directly may be a limitation, but it does not stop creative writers from helping their fellow writers contribute exciting work to their new homeland. The benefit of working as fellow playwrights is that we understand not only the creative process when writing a new play, but the technical demands of theatre and its creative possibilities.
This knowledge allows us to work quickly in the language of the theatre.
Using the first translation, we now work line by line, sometimes word by word, to make sure the English transcreation really reflects what Afeif wants.
Sometimes we use storytelling, miming, songs, and gestures to try to get the meaning of the words or verses.
Understanding a word, a phrase, or a custom all forms part of any cross-cultural translation. It takes more than a literal translation to stay true to the meaning of a word. For example, in Sudan, when people talk about clouds, that's a joyful thing. Here in Australia, we may think, a storm is coming. Another example is the sun and the dawn. That means that good things are coming, like democracy, like freedom.
We have to make some decisions around the meaning. Sometimes symbols, metaphors, and other creative language tools may not have a shared understanding across cultures.
In translation studies, this is known as choosing between domesticating the language, that is, using a word or context that is familiar to, in this case, an Australian audience, or foreignization, that is, keeping the Arabic word or context so the character or the story retains its original cultural context, even if this is unfamiliar to a local audience. Another example might be items of clothing like a galabia, or we could maybe change that to a tunic.
This can be a conversation we have with the director of the play when it's produced.
But it's important to remember that in transcreation, the final choice must always be with the original creator of the work. And to note that in our process of transcreation, it's a collaborative effort. We will also state the original text is by Afeif Ismail and the co-transcreation is by both of us.
We work together to make sure the dialogue and the stage direction are written in everyday English, and double-check the meaning in my original text has been reflected.
It is at this stage that we may adjust a metaphor or image, again through conversation and using translation tools to help us.
I come from a country with a strong tradition of oral storytelling. So the rhythm of the dialogue is very important to me. Hearing it loudly really helps with this. Plus, the theater depends on delivering the spoken words. When I first create the character, I hear their voices very, very clearly in Arabic. And I try to recreate this in English. بنت جدتها وقال لها أيضا عندما تذهب الشمس I love sharing my work with actors, and it is one of my great pleasures to see them take my stories and bring them in their own creative spirit to it.
In rehearsal, the role of the co-transcreators changes from one that deals with words and language to one where cross-cultural exchange can happen. Afeif gives a wider context to his work and his thinking behind the story. I talk about how we arrived at the English version, but also about my experiences of engaging with the Sudanese community here in Perth. By highlighting our process, we're helping the actors, directors, and everyone involved in the production of the play to engage in a cross-cultural dialogue.
I love seeing the faces of the children as they enjoy my work.
Afeif and I have developed a working relationship over many years. At first, it was a slow and confusing process, and there were times of frustration. But the more we work together, the easier it has become. We encourage you to develop your own working relationship and to find out what works best for you.
Transcreation takes time, patience, and a willingness to be open to another experience of life, culture, and work. And most importantly, a commitment to see it through, because it takes time to trust and understand one another.
In the third video, we'll share the harvest of our transcreation with you. Plus, there's a guidebook that can be downloaded as a PDF that guides you through our process and tells you a little bit more about Afeif and myself.
We hope we have inspired you to find a fellow artist to share your transcreation journey.
أشد قوافل رحيل